Good morning. I'm from Bhutan, and I'll be talking about what Bhutan is doing towards ecologies of care and my understanding of what that means, because I'm probably away from the science that has been presented by the previous two speakers. Although I was a horticulturist and by training, I studied horticulture, plant pathology, then I moved to work in organic agriculture development. So I've been working in agriculture, mostly working with farmers and making things happen on the field, more than the science of thing. So I'll basically today share a few experiences and things that I've seen about how at the policy level and at the local level, how people contribute to the conservation, the ecologies of care, as well as how people try to ensure that livelihood and environment and sustenance is continued. So maybe a few, I know some people have been in Bhutan, but our country is so tiny, most people don't know where it is. And if I say it is in the Himalayas, is it Nepal? Is it China? Is it India? We are lost there. So anyway, we are this little tiny piece of landlocked, and almost all of it is forest. People are almost like the endangered species in our country. We are only 750,000 of us. So how the country is just like, at the moment, depending on how you count the forest, is 80% to 70% is considered as forest cover. And in that, is 51% is national parks and protected areas, and about 21% is about biological corridors, which ensures the continuity of life flow within the national parks to ensure that the biodiversity and the growth of life continues and it continues to flow. And where people and farming happens is only 3% of the land is used for settlement. Of that, only 1.5% is cultivated. So we are, what I'm talking about is so microscopic that it may not even seem significant in other countries. But what some of you may have heard, what Bhutan may be more known for is the gross national happiness and the effort and aspiration to maintain the country as environmentally safe and sustained development based on organic agriculture. So, but the gross national happiness, I suppose some of you must have heard, it is mainly to have a balanced, sustainable development, have a cultural preservation, environmental protection, as well as good governance and economic development in a balanced way, so that it is not compromising any. It's like the four pillars are like the four legs of a table. If one leg is short, it just doesn't work. So that is a very basic principle. So when you have that background, the only way to farm, because more than 40 to 60% of the people are either farmers or working for the farmers or working with agriculture related work. So agriculture is mostly traditional and sustainable. So organic was the most appropriate way of doing farming. So when after I finished my college, I was the first job I was given when I came back to my office was, we're starting something, we're going to experiment organic. Of course, it was already being done, but the definition of what was organic from the defined Western way. So then we need to actually learn what it was. What is the definition of that? And that is where I've been working since 2003. In fact, I was studying in Lincoln. So when I got back, that was my first job. So I have been working in that area. So now looking at these two as the background, I just want to share a few stories how policy is another one, but the people in the villages, how they interpret and probably live giving care to the ecology. So I'll just share a few stories. There's one village, I went to one village who was growing organic buckwheat. And I said, when did you start growing organic buckwheat and why? And they said, well, did you ever use fertilizers in your village? And they said, yes, we did try once, but we stopped. I said, why? They said, because they said, when they started using the fertilizers, people started selling the cattle to the forest. They dropped their dungs in the forest. And we were not getting the dungs in our field. And with the fertilizer use, the soil became hard and compact. And then when we plowed, there was a very hard work for the oxen. We felt sorry for the oxen. So we stopped using fertilizers. So we started using, so it was compassion for the bulls. So then they said, okay, we'll just not use fertilizers. And that's how they started growing organic buckwheat. Not only organic buckwheat, but the whole system, village was organic. But for them, it was just traditional farming. But when we added a value to that buckwheat being sold as organic and being certified, then the organic meant something to them. Then there's this village called Lul. There's just 5 households out in the forest, jungle. And the forest, people left because it was just so difficult and there was no road, no farm road. So only one woman remained in the village. She said, I refuse to leave. I just want to stay here. Then eventually, many years later, one of the members of the community, he said, this can't be. We need to go back to the village and do something about it, We can't leave her alone. So the 5 households, he planned that they'll take loan from the bank. Each of them will take 100,000 neutrums loan from the bank. Together, from the governor, they asked for a machine, excavator, and they just put the fuel in, and they made a road into the village. But they said, we need to have an agreement. So they made a village agreement. They said, this road will be used only for the benefit of growing food and growing organic food. You will not bring in fertilizers. So they had their own, this was without intervention from anybody. So it has their intervention, because they said, this road, if you use to bring chemicals in, our land, the soil, and the health and the environment will be damaged. So this is how, for them, that was how they felt. They had to care for their village and the environment, which nobody asked them to do, but that was something, that's how they came about their own concept. And this is a group of women who were growing ginger, turmeric, dye, a mix of things. But it was started by a women's association, and then the government gave some support to initiate that work. But this group of women felt, because they received support from the NGO as well as the government, they had to share the benefit. So they formed a saving account, and from that every year they contribute to the village temple, and they contribute the scholarship for the students, for the children, village children, give uniforms and small things. So it is, I think, maybe so small, but how people share and care for the community and the environment. But this is all coincidentally the organic farmers who have done these things. So basically, this is just a few stories as a background, but today, through some of the pictures and some things I would like to share, I'll just talk about how protection, conservation, and improvement of the environment and the safety and biodiversity is preserved in the country. I will not specifically talk about each point, but hopefully as I go through, this will be covered. And one is about the prevention of pollution and ecological degradation through farming, and securing ecologically balanced, sustainable development while promoting justifiable economic and social development and food security, and building an organic brand for the country and certification system, and then involving how women or youth are playing a part in ecological farming, entrepreneurship, and agribusiness to help that happen in the country. So I just look at, I won't dwell a lot on this because these are some things probably you can discuss and probably is similar to in many countries. So some policies that have been developed policies that are there to support these things happening, which mainly our Bhutan, the country is very environmentally inclined. Look at anything you do as a measure of will it cause more damage than any benefit. So if you look at that, our constitution requires 60% of forests to remain at all times. So we know that it will not be over harvested. And then while it is not a policy as such, we have a guiding principle of organic farming. Of course, this has been misinterpreted in many places that Bhutan wanted to be the first organic country, 100%, which was not the case, but we aspired to be organic as much as possible. But anyway, this still stands. We work towards it, but not at the cost of the farmers' welfare. So the other thing is carbon neutrality, that any development, any industry or any business will be weighed in with the green factor. Is it going to be at the cost of the environment or the sustainability or the thing? So at the moment, we are carbon negative. Bhutan emits about 4 million tons of thing, but 4 times we carbon sink. We absorb more than what we emit. So one of the few countries who are carbon negative now. So, but the commitment is to always remain neutral. And now all other policies developed further on are based on these as the background, that the constitution, the carbon neutrality, and then the nationally determined commitments that Bhutan has submitted to the UN. The second one has been submitted in 2021, and in that specifically we have a low emission development, LED is low emission development for food security strategy. We will produce food to the best we can, but not at the cost of the environment. So then how do you do that? It's always a trade-off. If you push food production, people think it's at the price, cost of compromising on environmental damage or whatever. But we are one of the lowest users of chemical fertilizers or pesticide, probably one of the very low users in the thing. It is not banned because at the moment, because there is a survival, food cultivation still needs to continue, but the usage is very low. But mainly how we would like to support in line with GNH, the transformative pathways for Bhutan is to ensure that this food production is secure for all smallholder farms in the villages, enhance the value so that the standards are raised, that they can meet the market requirement, unleash the power of digital tools. How can we use digital technology and innovation to help the farmers to leverage their production and link secure financing and to look at crop insurance or things like that to de-risk the agriculture factor, which is still a lot of work needs to be done, but focus on boosting nutrition and nutrition positive initiatives while growing crops which are the more useful things, which are more nutrient dense, which can get more price in the market, or something which is traditionally required in the food basket. So this is the area where the government supports and sustain nature-first approaches, build capacities and strengthen coordination with the partnership. So these are some things. So eventually by 2030, as earlier mentioned, that just want to be carbon neutral, but have a good environment benign, high performance food system. Our food system is still low input, very traditional. How can we improve that a little bit more so that food is more productive, but not at the cost of the farmers as well as the environment, and that the food is safe and nutritious, but in the process it provides gainful engagement and employment to people, and it empowers women and children, and radically advances the maximization of GNH and SDGs, which we are signatory to the thing. So eventually these are the government commitments, but I think these are just some of the things which the government ensures that is done. But I just wanted to add on that some of the things that, new things that are happening to lead it to the future is the Gelifu Mindfulness City that our king has initiated, and that keeping in the southern border about 5,600 square kilometers of the area as a special administration zone for a mindfulness city, which is based on Vajrayana Buddhism, spiritualism, balanced environmentally sustainable development, more like a garden city, which also has a special administration with international laws, international financial rules, so that it gives a separate method of development. But the rest of Bhutan will be remaining as it is. So this is something we're starting with for the youth and the future. There's a lot of hope that this could maybe have a potential for improving the economy, because our economy is not really very advanced and recovering very slowly after the COVID. Now, other thing is the food security and the ecology. Not only the security, as the equitability, and having a balanced development between the economic as well as the trade-off with the environment. And then I think some of the messages we heard earlier is about the balance of power, who takes ownership of what. So I think the Biodiversity Act and the Access to Benefit Sharing Act ensures that at least the knowledge, the indigenous knowledge and the genetic material to some extent is respected and shared. I don't know how well it will be done, that at least an effort is put in there to ensure that that is protected. So the next I would look at it as, this is the area where I have been mostly working in since the very start of the organic sector development. I've been working in this. So just developing the organic sector is good, ideologically nice, and it sounds good, but if there's no economic benefit to the community, there's no return back flow, people are not going to do it. Why? Like, you sequester some carbon, but just because our neighbors are so big, we have no control over the climate. We have glacial outbursts, we have floods and hot weathers, non-stop rains and windstorms. There's nothing we can do. So it is at the cost of the farmers and the livelihood of the rural folk. So the one thing is to, how can we give value to what they do, is maybe whatever food they grow, we brand it and sell it as organic certification was one of the areas where I've been working in. So building the power of the brand, the value of the food being grown and coming from Bhutan in the domestic market and in the international market. So Bhutan also has a nation building, nation branding, which is the brand Bhutan, which is in for textiles, fibers, everything, food and services as well. But for the food sector, it is the made in Bhutan and grown in Bhutan. So they will do a lot of promotion, but from the agriculture side, how can we benefit from there? Because this branding is done by the economic ministry. So we felt maybe we piggyback right on that. So we said, can you make, instead of having a separate standard for grown in Bhutan, use the Bhutan organic standard as a prerequisite. So they agreed, and then we now have that where we said we will link the brand Bhutan to a local organic assurance and the third-party certification, upgrading it to international certification with internal control system, and then taking it to linking it up with the grown in Bhutan, so that we only work with the farmers, and that one the trade and economic sector will work on that, so that this gives a pathway to international markets. So these are some of the things where farmers can continue to farm, not having to do the marketing, but at least they find a natural path to the market. So these are some of the, just a few examples of the products that are certified, and seeds and products, and from the thing. So from here on, I'll just share a few things. Thing is, while all of these are happening, the government and the bureaucrats can come up with rules and standards and things, but at the end, it is the farmers who have to do all the hard work on the land. And at the end, you may develop the best perfect rules and programs, but if the farmer's not equipped to match up with the programs you have, it doesn't happen. So unless we include them from the very beginning, who are the farmers? Mostly women in Bhutan. Farm feminization is happening. Youth and men are going out to look for jobs in the towns. The farms are mostly being managed by women, which means we need gender-appropriate equipment and machinery and interventions, because with the changing population and population dynamic in the villages, changing climate pressure on the water availability as well as the resources, and drying up of springs because of development like the farm roads. So women's work has increased a lot in farming. But eventually they are the ones who are the custodians of all this knowledge, the burden of holding up the tradition, the culture, as well as the rituals, and that preserve all this knowledge in the villages. So it's the women who usually carry this role and responsibility. And this is something not unique to Bhutan. I think in Nepal and all our Himalayan states and countries, we share this common area. What is agriculture in our area is built, or it's basically living, it's livelihood. And it's our tradition, culture, religion, spirituality, and the strength and the networking of families and community, sharing of the work and consultation, having consensus in the community, and sharing food as well as how you setting up the boundaries and rules in the community, so that each one respects each other and you treasure the knowledge as a community knowledge, as well as what you treasure in the community is what you celebrate and what you ensure that it's continued in the next generation. But there is a lot of pressure with that. Also change. Of course, our people will not know why it is happening, but a lot of it is, yes, maybe earlier Dr. said everything is blamed on the climate, but people don't know. They don't say it's the climate, but they say it is happening. But people are not recording it, but things are happening. And yes, some scientists say it is because of climate change. And some say, no, over the years, this thing has been happening. It's been changing. So it's the birds, the indicator plants that are coming up, the seeds that are now no more available, the mosquitoes moving in, the new pests and diseases coming in, is changing. And sometimes the new foods have come in, some of the foods have disappeared from the plate in the community. So these are happening, but eventually, unless the rural folk who are still there as a collective entity continue to celebrate and nurture this and take ownership of this, these will disappear soon. So it is that mainly most of this is centered around food and celebration, because it only comes together when that happens. And then because now women are burdened not only with home care, farming, also with trading now. So when you go to the marketplace, having that knowledge and the awareness, and then the power of bargain, it has a whole different dynamic now. So, but they have to now ensure farm sustainability as well as the home sustainability, and also ensuring there's economical sustainability to send children to school. So while these are all many different dynamics happening, what we in the village for the farmer, it is food security, food self-sufficiency. Do I have enough to eat this year? Will I have next year? Will the seed will be available next year or not? So ensuring that they save seed, they share what is there, and then also ensure that you grow a whole diverse range of food, because it's the food basket. The richness in the basket ensures the nutrition as well as their balance of sustainability and food security, because if you only grow one crop, I suppose it also depends on the different scale of development. Like in the US, in the Europe, they only grow one crop. But for our farmers, if you don't grow 5 or 10 different crops, you probably will run short of food. So and these are very important to ensure not only the food security but also economy. If one fails, you have something else to rely on. So now I'll move on to some examples of how youth and women have taken up. I mean, these are just a few examples, but some examples of, say, this is a youth group with the promotion of trying to encourage young people to be going into agriculture, agribusiness, and or agriculture farming. So this group, they started a organic farm, and they called it the Othpar Mountain Promotion Project. And this group has done so well. They're now into their 8th year or so. It is a forest area. They leased a few abandoned farms from the mountains, and they built it into a farm. They leased some more forest land from the government. They expanded the farm. Now they are a really good example of horticulture farm, integrated farm. Now they have cattle, fruits, herbs, as well as vegetables. They also supply seedlings to their neighbors, and also they provide now, because they started processing all this food and selling in the market. Then they saw they needed packaging. But once they set up, it was too big for them. So they started providing service to others. If you want anything to be packed, come to ours, so we will pack it for you. So this is how they have started, and they're running. This is one woman, out of curiosity, she watched YouTube and she saw hydroponic, and she was fascinated. She tried, experimented, and her hobby bloomed into a business. And she is supplying salad bowls, vegetarian and non-vegetarian salad bowls in Thimphu. And from her small kitchen experiment, she has now, and it's like hotcake. It sells like hotcake. This is just a few examples of how people find ways to manage. It sounds so small, but when your environment is so tough, these are some of the things. So, but again, these are just some small examples, but at the landscape level, what is required to ensure is not 1 or 2 villages, but lot of villages looking at the agro-ecosystem, integrating forest, wild harvested food as well as cultivated food. And one is that biodiversity of having multiple foods, but also you can't just rely on that. You have to also look at a commercial, market-oriented production, and engaging people, bringing them to a common forum. They share the knowledge, they share the value, barter the things, exchange seeds, and create market linkages. And those are mostly women who are again coming to the market and bringing their produce forward, and that ensuring that the communities continue to grow food and eat food, celebrate, and ensure that the sustenance of the environment and biodiverse food is there. So because unless they ensure that, it will disappear, because we are such a small community. But of course, the pressure is not picture of the zong is there, but my concern is the snow, because we are getting so less snow. We have had no snowfall last winter in Thimphu. Year before was a good snowfall, probably this high. So we go winters without, and in the Himalayas without snowfall in the valleys. And that impacts the food production, because traditional knowledge says if you have a good freeze in the soil, you have a good snowfall, it's a bountiful harvest the next season. But when you don't have snowfall, people start to worry. What will the spring be early? Now then, we don't know. The spring is late, and then the crop fails. And if the summer, this year we had non-stop rain. We can't put a big umbrella, so like we have mercy of continuous rain. So these are something we can't control, but the only protection is to have biodiversity in food, ensure that we can grow a whole different lot of things which can manage in rain as well as in drought. And so this is where we need to look at exchanging knowledge, and extension and scientists going out in the fields to study the problems, advise them what needs to be done, the government providing some inputs and direction as to how to manage, and help people to grow a whole range of different things. These are some things that, and also ensuring while you promote farmers to grow some food, at the end which there is no market, next year they are not going to grow. So ensuring that you buy them back, or how can you, or link it to a market, ensuring that the seed is continued, that they get a seed again next year. So some of the initiatives we have been involved in, even during COVID, we had to send people to harvest the crop and sell it for them, because it's this thing. So ensure that there's resources like the compost, farmyard manures, awareness, promotions, inputs, as well as land development. In fact, our farms are so steep and terraces are so narrow that it's just not efficient to farm. So that is where we had to put in stone pickers to pick the stones to make the farms more easily usable, and increase the terrace width so that they can farm more easily, and train more of the extension officers to go out in the field and develop more compost and buy back the seeds and multiply and distribute seeds again. So these are some things, interventions farmers cannot do. So while we always say, who will bear the cost? Somebody has to bear the cost. There is a cost. There is a lot of goodwill and care given to well-being, food, nature, but at some point somebody pays for it, and it cannot be, at the cost of only the farmers, whose responsibility is. Then it needs to be shared and supported by all. It should not be just the farmers. So that is what we feel. So basically, because sustainability is our survival, because if you don't sustain the environment and the thing, we as a people, I think, of any nation will not survive if we don't ensure and respect that this needs to be conserved, protected, and valued and respected. And because we need to ensure that this earth is handed over to the next generation. So, but again, at the end, there is a practical balance that needs to be stuck. Is it the food, the economy, or the sustainability and the environment? So that equation has to somewhere be equitable. It cannot be equal, because it's nice for outsiders to see, oh, it's so beautiful, conserve it. But at what cost? It is the farmer's livelihood. So, but having a good start is the government being there to provide the base environment to work with, so that they can scale up the agroecology and the means of sustainability. So that ensures that when, how can you care for others if you are not caring for yourself? So it needs to be there. So this is basically the last slide. Thank you. So I don't know if it sort of came together for you, but I'm just trying to share my experience working with farmers. Thank you.